What do you do when the person you've become isn't the person that they used to know? If you made any type of significant change or transformation in your life, that's something that you struggled with. You kind of wrestle with the tension of who you were and who you become and explaining it to the people that are around you. A lot of times people hate change. And when the people that they know begin to change, they realize that you just didn't change, but your change is impacting everything that is around you, everything that is in your ecosystem. And a lot of times it disrupts what they used to know, or it disrupts the norm. So today I'm going to be talking about change, and I'm going to help you understand, and I'm going to show you that whenever you go through a change, the best thing that you can do is to reintroduce yourself. So allow me to reintroduce myself. Whenever we go through change, it's like the people that we know, they have to get reintroduced to who we are. And I understand that because it seems like to me that during this season and during this period of my life, I've been going through a huge transformation. And I know it's not just the locks that I have. It's not just my beard that you see growing out. That's just the physical manifestation of the change. But for me and my family, our lives has been changed, and the trajectory of our life, the direction that our life was going, has been shifted forever. Why is that? Because on January 2nd, 2020, my then 72-year-old mother-in-law was attacked in the place that I live in Kinston, North Carolina, with the aluminum baseball bat. As a result of that baseball bat, she's now nonverbal, which means she can't talk. She's now immobile, which means she can't walk. She now requires 24-hour care, which means the things that you and I do naturally without any thought, she requires assistance to do those things. She can't brush her teeth. She can't wash herself. She can't give herself meds. She can't feed herself. And so that right there was a huge blow. That was a huge transformation, a huge transition in my family's life. And that happened coming up on now 6 years ago. And so now when that thing happened to my family, it caused me to look at everything differently. It caused me to look at my life differently. It caused me to look at my family differently. It caused me to look at my decisions differently. And so if you ever been through those type of changes, and change isn't immediately, sometimes change happens in inches. Sometimes we have to change in response to the things in which life throws at us. And so today I'm just going to be going over what do you do when you have to change or you have changed. And so for me, I am reintroducing myself. And so for the first role that I want to discuss that I really had to change in, and that was my role as a husband. When I first got married, I remember when I first got married, I remember the day that I got married, standing there on the altar, and my wife came down the aisle and I just bust out crying. One of the reasons why I was crying was because she was so beautiful, and she was the girl that I fell in love with, or I had a crush on when I was in elementary school. And here was I as an adult, I was crying. But the biggest reason why I was crying was because I had no clue on how to be a husband. The things that I thought what being a husband was, they were in the forefront of my mind. And because, just listening to society and to the things that I've heard people say, I heard that a husband does three P's. A husband protects, he provides, and he professes. He protects his family. He is the one that he guards the family away from danger. He provides for his family. He works. He goes out and brings home his income, and he professes. He professes his love for his wife and for his kids. But I soon came to realize that husband was more than a title. It was a daily role, and it required partnership, and it required my presence. And so these are the things that I had to learn, and it really began to shift my perspective about this when that incident happened to my mother-in-law, because I was just felt like I had to protect, but that situation made me realize that I could only protect but so far, that I could only do certain things in order to protect and provide for my family. And so that helped me to realize that me as a man, that most of the time us as men, We want to be the fixers. I wanted to be the one to get things straight, but that situation forced me to realize that some things are out of my hands, that some things are out of my control. But what I needed to do was learn how to be the husband. And so those 3 P's that I told you about, the protect, the provide, profess, I had to add 2 more, and that was to be a partner and for me to be praying. Because in order for us to survive that type of attack, in order for us to maintain our sanity, to keep us from going into the darkness, I had to switch up and I had to get a connection. And that connection was through prayer and it was through partnership. Because I needed my wife to know that she wasn't walking through that thing alone. Marriage requires more than love. It requires consistency, sacrifice, and deliberateness. And whenever we decide to put on these roles and we take on these titles, oftentimes we feel that we don't have the skill set, we don't have the mindset. But the more we do these things, the more that we're able to grow. The more we participate, the more our capacity grows. And that's one of the things that I love about progression, because progression lets us know that I don't have to get things perfect, but I can get things better. I don't have to get things perfect, but as long as I'm willing to do the work, I can get better. And so for me, I had to realize that being a husband is a commitment to being a protector, provider, a partner, professing, and to be in prayer. Husbands just don't promise love, we practice it daily. Husbands just don't promise love, we practice it daily. The next role that I had to change in, that I had to reintroduce myself in, that was the role of being a father. And I can remember, I'm a girl dad. I've got 3 girls, and I can remember distinctly each one of my girls' heartbeats when we did the ultrasound. And that was a wake-up call for me. It made me realize the gratitude, the gravity or the bigness of what it is that I had been a part of creating. And for a long time, I just thought that being a father was being a authoritarian for a while, I even attempted to treat my daughters like they were soldiers because I was former military. But I had to realize that being a father is a guide and is being a guardrail, that I'm here to help guide my daughters, and I'm here to be that guardrail to keep them protected and to keep them safe and to keep them secure. The reason why I learned that is because children just don't watch what we say. They also mirror what we do. And I think that being an example for my daughters of letting them know of how I treat my wife, how I treated my wife during these times and situations, the respect, the admiration, the care, the things, the conversations that we have, is showing them and is teaching them how a man should treat a woman. It is showing them and teaching them how a husband should treat their wife. And I just don't want them to settle for the standard that they're shown. I want them to exceed the standards in whoever that they choose to be in relationship with. And so that's just being the guide, and that's just being the guardrail. Again, being a father is about legacy. It's about giving our children the legs, because when we look at the word legacy, we see the word leg, which is legs. And so in order for our children to have legacy, we have to give them legs to stand in order for them to get the legacy. Children who can stand taller than their parents is because their parents bent down, picked them up, and put them on their shoulders. And that's my goal. That is my objective for me being a father. And that right there was something that I shifted and I had to reintroduce myself to. A father's hands just don't provide, they prepare for the next generation. That a father's hands just don't provide, they prepare for the next generation. The next role I had to reintroduce myself was as a keynote speaker. For a long time in my life, I grew up, both my parents were both my parents were ministers, and then my father became a pastor. So I am a preacher's kid. And I thought that the only way that I could use this gift that has been given to me, the ability to speak, the ability to teach, was in a church setting. But I realized that it's not the people, not only are there people in church that need the help, there are people that are outside those walls that need the help too. And so being a keynote speaker, that allows me not only to be in one category, but it allows me not to be in a box, but I'm outside of the box. And it helps me not just to be this only, but it helps me to be both and. And so as me, far as a keynote speaker, this is the thing that I love. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy imparting knowledge. I enjoy helping people make transitions in their life. And so to me, a keynote speaker doesn't speak just to impress, but a keynote speaker speaks to leave an imprint. There's a lot of people that want to be impressive, but I believe that I'm here. I believe that certain people are here to make an imprint. The difference between being impressive and an imprint is impressive lasts for a moment. Impressive is a show. It is the image, a mirage of who you are. But when you leave an imprint, that means that you've carved something and you leave something that lasts beyond a moment, but it creates momentum down the line. What I realized as being a speaker is that audiences don't remember their words. They don't remember all of my words, but they would never forget how I made them feel and what they took away with when they walked away from the talk. And so that helped me to see, and that helps me to understand that. And I take this very seriously. This isn't something that I'm just doing haphazardly or just something on the side, something just to try. I take this craft very seriously. I've joined Toastmasters. And then if you don't know what Toastmasters is, it's an organization that helps people establish and develop their leadership skills and their speaking skills. And because I do that, I realize it's not the things that people see me do, but it's the things that I do behind the scenes that when I'm seen on the scene, people can tell that I've been doing the reps behind the scenes. And that's very important to me. And so there, whenever I speak, I don't know who's going to be in the audience. I don't know what those people are wrestling with. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know their mindsets. But it is important for me to realize that I have to use the right words, that I have to use the words in the moment to be able to help them, to be able to shift them, to be able to cause a change, a transformation, and a difference in their lives. Words have power. And when we use correctly, words can establish connection and they're able to help people go through transformations in their life. A keynote speaker isn't just someone who talks, but they transform through their words and they transform in the moments and in the rooms that they're in. Through speaking, you can create moments that begin to move into momentum outside of those walls. A great speech just doesn't echo, it encourages excellence. A great speech just doesn't echo, it encourages excellence. The next role that I've decided to take on that I need to reintroduce myself as a mindset coach. And a mindset coach helps people break patterns so that they can begin to build progress in their life. A mindset coach helps people to break patterns, these beliefs, so that they can begin to build progress in their life. And so what the mindset coach does, what we do, what I do, I help people to begin to make these shifts because our thoughts affect our beliefs. Our beliefs impact our beliefs affect our behaviors. Our behaviors affect our patterns. Our patterns influences our path and our path influences our progression. And so I'm going to say that again slowly so you can catch that. Our thoughts influences our behaviors. Our behaviors, thought I said that all wrong. Excuse me. Let me say that better and let me say that correctly. Our thoughts influences our beliefs. Our beliefs affects our behaviors. Our behaviors influences our habits. Our habits create patterns, and patterns create the path that we walk on in our life. And so when we begin to break that down, we think about what it is that we're thinking about, and our mindset affects how we see the world and how we see ourselves. And so when we begin to look at how we see ourselves, if we can begin to change our thoughts, if we can begin to affect our thoughts, then our thoughts begin to influence our beliefs. Our belief begins to control our behaviors. Our behaviors begin to create our habits, and our habits create the patterns that pave the path that we're walking on in our life. And it's important for us to start beginning to deal with these things on that thought and on that belief level. And so as a mindset coach, I help people to make those shifts in their perspectives so that they can live their life better. What I've realized is doing this is that most people don't lack potential. Most people aren't lacking potential. They're trapped in limiting perspectives. I'm going to say that again. Most people don't lack potential. They're trapped in their limited perspectives. And when their perspectives are limited, it keeps them in a box that they are not able to escape out of. But when we change our mindset, we can change our movement, and our movement can create momentum. I've coached a lot of frustrated achievers and leaders, and they had to deal with a lot of the things that many of them had to deal with was the self-sabotaging thoughts that was coming up in their minds. And a lot of times when those self-sabotaging thoughts begin to come up, they show up as self-doubt and they show up as excuses, and it begins to cause procrastination. The moment that they begin to shift their thinking, their results begin to shift too. The moment you shift your thinking, your results will begin to shift too. A mindset coach, we equip people with the mental tools to unlock what is already in them. We don't put anything in them. We don't add to whatever the individual has, we help them to enhance it, and we help to unlock the things that they may have overlooked, the things that they may have forgotten about, so that they can begin to become their best and they can live life better. When we begin to change our mindset, we can create better motion. When you shift your mindset, you shift the different type of motion, and that creates the movement that you're having in your life. The fifth and final thing that I want to reintroduce myself as an author. This is my book, Committed, Tap Into the Mindset That Fuels Progression. This is something that I wanted to do ever since I was reading books as a child. But I procrastinated, and I had to shift my own mindset to start taking action. And I wrote this book during a period of time, during the period of time when after my mother-in-law was attacked. I needed to be able to put my mind on something positive. I needed to be able to focus my energy on something productive. And this right here was the cause, and this right here was what I was able to do during that period of time. It helped me because a lot of the things that was running through my mind, I could have been super negative. I could have been super dark. I could have been doing a lot of things that were not beneficial to me or for my family. But I made the decision to focus on something that I wanted to get done. And this work right here, it tells about what I had to do, the work that I had to do through therapy. Because if I wouldn't have done the work and faced the demons and faced the monsters that was going on in my own head, before that attack happened, I would not have been able to keep myself or to keep my family stabilized and for us to survive the horrors that went on in my family's life. And so that right there, this book right here is not just any old work of art, but this is the work that I had to do before the situation occurred. And this is documenting that work, me going through therapy. And so that's what I want to let you know. Whatever is going on in your life, whatever those experiences are, don't discredit them, because they're giving you the strength. They're giving you the grit. They're giving you the tenacity. They're giving you the resilience. They're giving you the confidence and the courage in order to face what you're currently facing within your life. So don't discredit those hard times. Don't discredit those dark days. Be thankful for those dark days, because they are building you. They're strengthening you. They're helping you realize that you've got something in you that possibly you have forgotten about, that you may have taken for granted, and that you can thrive and that you can survive because of what it is that you've been through. It only makes you tougher, and it only makes you greater. Books outlive the moment. They allow the authors to tell their story, their lessons, and their wisdom to reach people that I probably won't even ever meet. And that's what it is. This book is my brain in a book. This is my brain on these pages, and I wrote it to be able to help other people not to make the same mistakes that I've did. I wrote it to help someone else to be able to move through their life better without getting entangled and making and experiencing some things. Because I've heard that experience is the best teacher. But I heard someone else say that a wise man not only learns from a smart man learns from other mistakes. Excuse me, let me say that better. A A smart person learns from his mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. And I wrote this book to be able to help someone else not to make those mistakes. I wrote this book to be able to save a life, to let them know that their life is too precious to end it by suicide. And so I've known, and this is the reason why I wrote the book. That's my why, to be able to help someone to realize that their life has value and that they are important. Also, for them to be able to take the wound, to take my wounds and turn them into wisdom. To take my wounds and to turn it into wisdom. That's why I wrote it, to be able to help someone else to get further within their life. My book captures my struggles, it captures my breakdown, and it also captures my breakthroughs of my journey so that someone else doesn't have to stay stuck, so someone else doesn't have to live their life straining, struggling, stressed out, but they can live their life better. And I go over principles in the book as well. And so on the next videos, I'm going to be discussing the principles so that you can have a greater impact within your life. To be an author means for me to leave my fingerprints of wisdom on the world so that someone else can be guided forward. Authors just don't write books. They write blueprints in order to help others build their life better. Authors just don't write books. They write blueprints so that others can build from. So just a quick recap. I'm reintroducing myself. I had to reintroduce myself as a husband, a father, keynote speaker, mindset coach, and author. This is what this channel is. It's documenting my change. It's documenting me going through the process. Because a lot of times people hate the process. They just want the progress. A lot of people hate the process because they just want the progress. But you have to go through the risk in order to get the results, and so that you can appreciate the rewards. And so if you're interested in mindset, if you're interested in growing, if you're interested in changing your life, if you're interested in progression, if you're interested in moving forward faster, tap in. Tap that like, tap that subscribe button. And if I said anything on today that has helped you, share it with someone else so that they can be helped as well. And as always, I'm Coach Cannon, and I'm committed to progressing forward.